From Kenner's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, it's Millennium Falcon that you put together. Batteries not included.
Nice landing, Han Solo. Uh-oh, come on, Chewbacca. Stormtroopers are coming.
Action figures each sold separately.
Hello, welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. David, Sean, and I have a special guest for this show about Star Wars toys. Welcome, JR.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome, David.
The tracks go off in this direction.
Welcome, Sean.
Hello, my friend.
Let's begin. Easy question out of the gate. How many figures and vehicles do you own?
That's actually not a very easy question to start off with, my friend.
Exactly. No, that was sarcasm.
A couple thousand figures, a couple hundred ships.
For me, about 1,000 and maybe about 50 or less ships. I'm not big into the ships. Lack of space.
I would say easily 1,000 figures. Not too many ships though. Maybe a dozen tops. What about playsets? Are we counting playsets as ships?
How many playsets do you own?
6 or 8. How many barges?
0.
One for me. It's one of my favorite things in the collection.
And no barge for you, correct, David?
Nope.
Do you have a focus? If so, what is it?
For me, I'm 3 3/4. Pretty much all vintage. I dabble a little bit in the newer stuff, mostly the Mando stuff, but that's about it for me. Oh, and like a focus, Stormtroopers.
For me, my focus is mostly 3 3/4. It's a little bit of everything. I don't have a single focus of one character. I collect them all, if you will. I have just about every figure that they've released since 1995. All the vehicles and playsets they've also come out with. It takes up a lot of space. I've been out of space for a while and have plans to build a much bigger area to put it all in so I can show it off.
So I have a bit of everything. Some vintage, a lot of modern. My primary focus is Darth Maul, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Nine Nub, and now most recently the Mandalorian stuff.
So in asking those two questions, I get the sense that no one's keeping track. No one has checklists. No one has computer files.
I do. I just don't have them handy. I keep. I've evolved over the years from paper and copying and loads and loads of paper to early Excel files to now there's some online help with some things where you can click a button and it keeps track of your entire collection for you. So I've been doing that. So I won't buy as many duplicates as I have before.
I do checklists from time to time, like vintage board games, in order for me to keep track of which ones I had. I, made a list of the different board games that were out there and priced them out, and then was able to acquire all the old vintage games. But again, checklists are of my wants, not necessarily and needs, but not necessarily of everything that I have.
My Star Wars collection is the last one to get a spreadsheet. I have one for my comic book collection. I have one for my vintage G.I. Joe toys, but I do not have one for Star Wars. And I guess, like David said, it's the want list is kind of what keeps me on track, though I have been known to accidentally double purchase.
What is the best Star Wars toy of the past 5 years?
The barge, hands down. It is an epic toy. It is huge. It is highly detailed. It was an amazing thing that Hasbro did in a time where we didn't think Hasbro actually cared about the toy collectors anymore, especially the Star Wars toy collectors. We weren't getting things that were very high quality. Things had gotten a lot lower quality with the plastic and the bubbles on the cards. And then they surprised us with this. And when you got it in hand, I mean, everybody who sees it is in awe of it.
The sculpts on the 3 3/4 figures, they're very, very detailed, and I've really appreciated the time and the effort that they've been putting into the details for those, far and above the 3 3/4 from the original action figures that we grew up with. So that would be my choice.
I agree with both of you guys. For sheer wow and awe factor, The sail barge is probably the coolest and biggest toy to come out since the flag aircraft carrier in the 80s. So there's that. I also agree with David that the quality, even though we are getting fewer toys in this moment in time, we're getting better quality toys. The sculpts and the paint jobs on not only the 3 3/4 figures, but also the 6-inch figures as well. Since the beginning of the Black Series line to now, the best toy, I don't know. For me, I'm glad to see that they finally did a Black Series Jar Jar, but that's weird. I don't know if I really want to say that's the best toy to come out in the last 5 years, but I mean, there's something for everybody, right? We're getting more love, I guess, across the fan base, more legend stuff, more expanded universe things. The releases that are upcoming of some of the random weird Marvel characters from the 70s, like Jackson the Rabbit, which I think is a cool thing that they're doing. Over the last several years, instead of just giving us more and more Luke Skywalkers, and I understand that, but I think that the variety of figures has been nice. It's definitely going back to the way it was sort of in the years around the prequels when we were getting all kinds of random background characters.
What was the price of the barge? What is the price of the Razor Crest?
The barge came in at $550 with shipping.
And David, what did you pay for the Razor Crest?
I think with tax, I think it ended up $380, almost $400.
Ouch. Did HasLab hit the target for the Razor Crest?
Yeah, it absolutely continued to take orders. They started setting benchmarks for adding things like the Jawa, the Carbonite figures were added. So there's a whole lot of different things that they added.
Yeah, it reached its goal in less than 24 hours, where the barge took nearly the whole time for the mark they set for it to be made. And it just, the Razor Crest, I think, showed Hasbro how starved Star Wars collectors are for content, especially The Mandalorian, which was a phenomenon that hit the world, and there was no product on the shelves at that first Christmas for anybody to buy.
Do you think that part of the success of the Razor Crest, people realized their mistake in not buying the barge and they wanted to get on board early with the Razor Crest?
I don't want to speak for David, but I think David's one who wanted, once you see the barge, you wish you'd have picked one up, especially for the original price. And then, once you see this, that if you don't get it, it's gone. I know a lot of people in our community, our collecting community locally, who purchased one this time because they didn't purchase the barge.
Personally, it's about space. Once I found out how big the barge was, pretty much a non-purchase for me.
Did you buy it, Sean?
I did not. It was one of those things where at the time I just couldn't pull the trigger on the money. And of course now I repent. It's also one of those things too, like David mentioned, space. Someday when I'm a lotto winner or president of a small company and I can afford it, I'll go back and get these things and have them in my collection. But until then, I'll just go visit JRs and cry.
The target for the Razor Crest was only $6,000, and it ended up having 28,000 backers. So a lot of people jumped on. And then, of course, as soon as the sale of the Razor Crest ended, we got the episode of it turning to dust. So some of us are expecting just ash. I really hope that's not the case.
Yeah. Thank you, Moff Gideon. All right. Now, this next question, this is, I love to hear people talk about this. What is your favorite Star Wars toy of all time?
For me, the coolest one was the Falcon. I mean, I loved running around my house with the Falcon, pretending, like I'm on some mission to a different world, doing all the cool spins and dips and things like that the Falcon would do, and I love that thing.
That's the original. That's a New Hope Falcon, the first
Correct.
one.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's really easy. It was a Christmas morning, and I opened up the Death Star. The actual vintage Death Star when I was a kid was such an epic toy. It was tall. It had a working elevator. It had a working gun on top of it. It had a rope swing. It had a diagonal with the foam, and you could crush your people in it, and the door would pop open. It had a trap door. It was one of the most epic things I ever owned as a child. And of course, once I destroyed it, which I did with most of my toys as a child, I had to rebuy it as an adult, and it sits proudly displayed in my collection as one of my most favorite things.
I totally second that. When I got my Death Star playset as a kid, it was the thing, and it will always be the thing. I have also, like JR, I have most of the pieces of my original one from my youth in a box, and I also have another better quality one that I purchased later for my collection. But yeah, that was the thing. That provided years of entertainment in my youth. And when getting it and opening it and putting it together and all that stuff, that was probably, the greatest Star Wars toy moment of my life.
Okay. What is your white whale? The piece that is your obsession, but one that you can't find or can't afford?
I've got two because I'm trying to finish the vintage run. I'm missing Yak Face and I'm missing Pop-Up R2. I've gotten to the point where I don't even care about having the saber. I just want the Pop-Up R2. That's my white whale that I'm going to have to wait very patiently for and just wait for the perfect moment, and then I'm going to have to pounce and then ask for forgiveness from my wife.
San Diego Comic-Con, limited release, glow-in-the-dark Darth Maul pop. It's a $4,000 pop right now. That one's not going in the collection.
San Diego Comic-Con had a set. It was the carbon freezing set, and it came with a bunch of exclusive figures inside of it on the vintage style collection cards. And in the middle of it, popped up out of it, like Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back, was a on-card Jar Jar Binks frozen in carbonite. It is one of the coolest things. I do not own it. It is a set that you can only get at San Diego Comic-Con. It was very, very hard to come by, and on the secondary market now is a little bit out of my price range.
Yeah, there's two sets that big sets like that came out at San Diego with the vintage collection figures. There's the Death Star one. It's a big box that looks like Death Star from Return of the Jedi, and it's got, I think, a dozen carded figures in it. And then there's the carbon freeze one with the Jar Jar. I would love to have the Jar Jar. I don't need the whole set. So I think maybe getting that one in my collection would be a lot less than buying the whole box. But yeah, that's definitely up there too, JR.
JR, do you buy any custom?
I do. Early on when like Attack of the Clones came out and we saw different colored clones, Hasbro was a little slower at getting those out. We got just some basic ones. And then with the cartoons that came out, Hasbro was really slow. And there were a lot of customs really starting to come out. Some good quality people online were making things. And that was when I started buying customs. I'm a diorama builder. I like to have people, I like to have all the people who are in a specific scene set up in a diorama. And if Hasbro isn't willing or is unable to make a specific figure that is key to a scene, then I will find somebody who is willing to make a good custom of it, and I'll give them my business.
Do you custom build dioramas?
I take the play sets that Hasbro has done, and then I will build things to go around them to kind of complete the scene.
All right, so what have you made? What do you have?
So before I found out that foam board was a really easy thing to work with, which I haven't mastered yet. I found a guy online who made things out of wood, and one of my favorite things that I built was a TIE fighter launching station. It looks epic. It holds the TIE fighters in place. It has the ladders for the pilots to climb into. It has all of the stations up top. I bought custom stickers online to put on all the stations for the text to look like they're pushing buttons to make the TIE fighters launch. But it is made of wood. It is big. It is heavy. It is not practical. So I've been playing with foam board and trying to figure out how to best utilize that and make a lighter, easier to move around display.
Now we'll get into some of the deeper issues. How do you feel about Hasbro and its licenses?
Hasbro has been this love-hate relationship for me and most of the Star Wars collectors that I know, where they will do a thing where they'll come out with a barge and we'll be ecstatic and we'll say they are doing a great job. And then, with the sequel trilogies, no matter how you feel about them, personally, product-wise, toy-wise, especially in the 3 3/4 line, they didn't do a whole lot. There's not a lot of representation for those movies. There's no dedicated Star Wars line anymore. We have the vintage collection now, which is more of it's a collector focused line. It's highly detailed, lots of paint apps, highly articulated figures on really nice cards for $14 a piece after tax at most places, and is not really a good kid focused line. Hasbro really, they've tried with the kid focused lines. They've got a couple of lines out now that are for kids, but you can't find them anywhere. If you walk into a Target, Walmart, there is not a lot there. In fact, in most of them, especially in this area, in the Pacific Northwest, they are just empty walls. Plenty of other toys around them. Hasbro's shipping plenty of, other things to these Targets and Walmarts for them to fill up their toy aisles. Just there is no Star Wars to be found around here. In the glory days of the early 2000s, you could go to Toys R Us, KB Toy and Hobby in the mall, and there would be a whole aisle dedicated just to Star Wars with just pegs and pegs, 6 or 7 deep of figures and ships and play sets. And those days are gone.
So since you brought up the Toys R Us thing, announcement either last week or the week before that the guy who owns Toys R Us is making the plan to bring Toys R Us back. Do you feel like once Toys R Us is back, it's going to pressure Walmart and Target to start having more, will have more opportunities to get figures, or do you think that's not going to matter?
It started in 2009 when KB went under. Toys R Us mismanaged their business and acquired so much debt that they finally had to close all their stores in 2018. People who want to buy toys for their kids, for collectors, for parents on Christmas, go to a Target and to a Walmart. That's not their focus. Toys is just a very, very small part of their business. We always talk about exclusives, right? Target gets an exclusive, Walmart gets an exclusive Star Wars figure or toy. It's supposed to bring us in so that we'll buy socks and shoes for our kids or hit the grocery spot. They really don't care. I think that Toys R Us was a big competition for them because you could go somewhere else and buy these toys. So back then when Toys R Us was around, Targets and Walmarts and these other stores, these big box stores, had to adapt. So they had to bring more in, offer more, at lower prices where they don't have that competition anymore. I think if somebody could make it a viable business, I think that it would make these other big box stores rethink how they carry and distribute toys.
JR, you seem to be able to navigate the online shopping waters in ways that we don't. You seem to always get what you're looking for. Talk a little bit about the online shopping and the rivalries between collectors.
Hasbro Pulse at first had a real issue with bots. Even if they limited it to just one per purchase, people with these bots could buy multiple times with different email addresses and whatnot. Hasbro Pulse fixed that. They have a system in place now where you have to hit the I'm not a robot button or whatever. Target and Walmart still haven't added those features to their online purchasing. So these things usually happen at 10 o'clock in the morning. You really have to get on right away. Hasbro Pulse, you could be a premium member and you would be able to purchase first, which was nice. They still charge now for a premium membership, but they don't have the purchase first thing anymore. They just have some free shipping and other exclusives, which, is kind of a letdown for Hasbro, to be honest with you. I was a little disappointed. As far as online purchasing through fan sites, you just have to be diligent. You have to be online all the time. You have to know what's coming out, and that's following the figure-focused fan sites, and there's a lot of them out there, and there's some really good ones. Listening to podcasts, finding out what's new, what's coming out, what's rumored. One of the big issues is the people who buy many of these figures. And when somebody who has to work and can't get on that website at 10 o'clock in the morning, they get home at 5, they jump on, they're excited to buy something, and the disappointment of looking down and seeing sold out. It really takes the fun out of the collecting part.
The thing about buying online, so I used to not pre-order toys, buy online. I was always going out on toy runs, and it was easier for me to get things at retail. So I really have, I've probably spent the last year plus now ordering almost exclusively online. And I find getting standard issue toys, the regular runs, the regular releases, very easy. But like JR said, you have to know what's coming out. And then you have to, for the regular toy line of something, the regular release toys, as long as you're ordering reasonably early after that line has been announced and made available for purchase, you're going to get it. The exclusives, of course, are the real problem. Every time I want to get an exclusive figure, I'm paying to the nose for it. It's particularly egregious with another Hasbro license, which is G.I. Joe. Their Target exclusive figures have been just horrific to find. As soon as it's released, it winds up on eBay at 3 times retail, and you're lucky if you get it for that. So some of the Star Wars stuff has definitely followed suit on that. Trying to find the Target and Walmart exclusive Black Series figures has been it's been very difficult. But in the Pacific Northwest where we live, retail, the retail Star Wars toys, it's almost completely empty. And there are groups of professional collectors who spend a lot of time in the stores, and they use apps and they track inventory, and they go in and buy these things at retail as they're being pulled out of a box and put on the shelf. And it's the physical version of the people who are able to also click the thing online before we're able to click the thing online. And you are presented with this conundrum of, do I order it and wait, or do I not order it and then continue to try and do toy runs, or go to the secondary retailing market and go to eBay and other places and get screwed?
Nothing beats a successful toy run. When Hasbro re-released Star Wars in 1995, and you found those super awesome steroid Lukes and steroid Obi-Wans, it was a really cool thing. And before, the internet and websites, and before social media, I had 2 days a week. I went every Wednesday, every Saturday. I would go on a toy run, and nothing was more exciting than walking into one of those places and seeing a bunch of pegs with brand new figures on them that I didn't even know were coming out. And you would grab them all, and then some guy would walk down the aisle and he would be like, "Oh my God, they're here." And communities were born around that too. Here locally, we have Stars, a collecting group, and groups like that were born around this kind of stuff.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.